So you've diagnosed yourself with ADHD. You've come to that conclusion because you've been scrolling away for 6 hours and found a 15-second clip on TikTok.
Top 10 signs of ADHD.
Here are 4 signs you might have ADHD.
And you're thinking, maybe I do have ADHD. And now you're considering doing a full dopamine detox for 2 weeks. You wake up in the morning, you try and do some perfect morning routine you found on YouTube. You meditate, you journal, you chug lemon ginger in a little shot glass, maybe even take a cold shower. But by lunch, you've collapsed into the same lack of motivation as yesterday. You feel drained, bored, and completely unenthused about life.
Boredom is absolutely something that we've evolved to experience. It serves a purpose.
Statistically speaking, most people watching this video don't have ADHD. But here's the thing, in a world designed for distraction, without an understanding of cognitive processes, you'll become a victim to your impulses. And then here comes distraction's best friend, cognitive dissonance. People will simply convince themselves they have ADHD because it's far more simpler than admitting the fact that they're addicted to their phone. It's far more simple to admit you have ADHD than to say I've sabotaged my attention span. It's like saying I can't go to the gym because I'm too skinny. This is the victim-oriented mentality your brain comes up with to justify wasting time. And if this isn't you, I guarantee you know someone like this. The guy at work who blames missing deadlines on undiagnosed ADHD. Or that one friend who claims they can't read a book anymore because their attention span's fried. That same friend though can spend 3 hours binge watching a Netflix series. And a disclaimer before I continue on with this video. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is very real. This video is about the rest of us who have convinced ourselves we have ADHD because we simply can't stop checking our phones every 10 minutes. Alright, so let's zoom out for a second. Why does it currently feel like everyone and their dog has ADHD? The diagnosis of ADHD has been steadily increasing over the past decade.
People's attention spans are shortening. We see this at a societal level with things like any given news story only lasts for a very short time before everything has moved on.
To another topic.
Exactly.
Yep.
Where previously the news used to linger.
And of course the internet blames social media for this. It's the algorithms, it's the phones, it's the constant dopamine hits. And look, it's tempting to blame your inability to focus on Instagram Reels, but I won't let you off the hook that easy. But here's where things get interesting. Experts do point out that ADHD has been increasing, but not for the reasons you think. Do you think the symptoms have increased generally?
Yeah. And possibly that we're seeing more of the symptoms because we're doing things like media multitasking more.
Yep.
And our attention spans might be shortening, can lead to the experience of more ADHD-like symptoms and awareness of what ADHD is, leading people to unite those two.
Merge the two.
Right? It's always important to remind people that symptoms aren't a diagnosis.
Yep.
The diagnosis of ADHD has increased. It's not to do with it being more prevalent. It's to do with changing the diagnosis guidelines.
What's happening is that the criteria for diagnosis has changed, which means more people simply fit into this category, not that the actual rate of the disorder has increased. Think of it like soccer. If you increase the size of the goal and that results in more goals being kicked, it doesn't mean people are better shooters. It doesn't mean people are getting magically better at kicking. No, it simply means the rules have changed. This is important. The rate of ADHD itself hasn't actually increased. Being born in the 21st century does not simply mean you have a lack of attention. Another common myth I hear is you can develop ADHD later on in life. Nope. Under current psychiatric conditions, ADHD doesn't just appear out of nowhere in your mid to early 20s. Nearly every single diagnosed case appears before the age of 12. There are always going to be outliers, sure, but statistically speaking, you watching this video are not the outlier. You're not that special snowflake who picked up their phone and developed ADHD at the age of 23. So if it's not ADHD, then what is it? That's where we dive into the fun part. Why it feels like everyone has ADHD, even when they don't. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The modern world has been engineered for distraction. What do you think is actually making them believe they have ADHD?
It's important to separate diagnosis from symptom. An ADHD diagnosis requires you to see a psychologist, see a psychiatrist for the medication. There is a process, there's screening, there is...
Categorically.
Yes, right. There's also symptomology, be it hyperactivity, restlessness, the need to multitask.
If you've ever sat down to do some work, attempted to focus, and caught yourself watching raccoon cooking videos 20 minutes later, congratulations, you've experienced this firsthand. Your phone buzzes 4,000 times per day. Your email pings every 10 minutes. Social media apps compete for your attention like aggressive street performers. And every time you log on to just check one thing, it's never one thing. That little toddler in your mind grabs that steering wheel and goes for a joyride. So no, your attention span isn't broken, it's just under siege. And here's the kicker, yes, the average person's attention span has decreased. Studies show we can barely hold focus for more than a few seconds before craving novelty. But, and this is a big but, attention span is trainable, just like your muscles at the gym. Think about caffeine addiction for a second. If you slam 3 coffees every morning, your body suddenly adapts. It has to get used to it. You need more caffeine to feel the same effect. But cut back for a while and suddenly you start to feel the hit of 1 coffee again. Attention works the same way. Overexposed, it weakens the effect, requiring more. Pull back and it sharpens. The important point here is, attention is not the same as dopamine, but more on that later. Now here's the part nobody wants to hear. Rebuilding focus is uncomfortable.
Boredom itself is being characterized a few ways. It's being characterized as a negative state of a lack of desire, a lack of purpose to what you're doing. Increasingly, research does suggest that boredom has a functional purpose.
People forget that the brain is a muscle. You won't go to the gym once, struggle, and then call it a day. But that's exactly how most of us treat our attention span. We attempt to read a book for 5 minutes, and then conclude we have ADHD because we can't process one word. What you're actually experiencing is withdrawal from constant stimulation. Your brain is addicted to quick hits of stimuli. Reading a book, sitting still, could never sound so boring. It almost feels painful while we crave for another dopamine spike. So how do you reverse it?
The most important step when it comes to boredom would be first recognizing that you are bored, then being mindful of the sensation in a non-judgmental way. Engaging in that process is what psychology would describe as mindfulness. So being mindful of the experience of being bored, then allowing yourself to do something with it. So people who experience boredom and participate in a creative task are more likely to engage with that task and be more creative than people who were engaged and did the same task.
Start small. Read 1 page, not 50 at a time. Work for 10 minutes, not 2 hours at a time. Incrementally increase the weight. The key isn't to go monk mode overnight. It's to push just slightly past your comfort zone and let your brain adapt. Understand what's happening inside your brain. This isn't just a lack of willpower. There are 2 systems at play when making decisions. One impulsive and one rational. The impulsive system is the little man that screams, check your phone, check reels, check shorts, check TikTok. The rational system is the quieter voice, which tries to keep you on track. If the little man can't find stimulus quick enough, the big man comes in and actively expends energy to find stimulus. Now, the little man likes junk food. He takes about 15 seconds before he can't find junk food, and that role quickly switches over to the big man. The way the 2 system works is, if the little man can't find a stimulus within an average of 15 seconds, the big man comes in, who's a lot healthier, and diverts attention where it's supposed to be directed. This is the process we must foster. However, this process is active and not passive, which means it can be uncomfortable. This makes the user feel exceedingly agitated, uncomfortable, and can even invoke a reaction similar to that of ADHD. And here's the tragic part. The modern world constantly supercharges the little man. Notifications, ads, autoplay features, music, they're all designed to hijack the impulsive little man. The big man, 15 seconds later, doesn't even get a chance to intervene because you've already opened your phone, you've already responded to the ad, you've already checked your emails. And arguably for that matter, I think everyone's little man has ADHD. But knowing this is empowering because once you see the trap, you can start to disarm it. You can put your phone in another room. You can set timers. You can build rituals which tricks your brain into thinking, right, I'm in this position, I need to focus now.
Boredom, mind wandering, and relaxation in this case. Mind wandering, you are supposed to be doing a task, but you're not. Relaxation, you're not doing a task and you don't want to. Boredom sits between, where you're not doing a task, but you would like to be, and you're experiencing a lack of purpose. That's why it's associated with kind of a negative experience.
It won't feel good at first. It'll feel extremely awkward. But that's just your attention span waking up from the coma. And similar to caffeine withdrawals, and like any muscle, Once it starts strengthening, the results compound. So no, you don't suddenly have ADHD because you can't go through an Excel spreadsheet without opening Instagram Reels. You're living in an environment designed to hijack your focus, and you have not been trained to deal with this. And this brings up the internet's favorite solution, called the dopamine detox. Yep, the internet's holy grail, dopamine detoxing. If you've been anywhere near YouTube self-help channels or productivity TikTok, you've heard it. Starve your brain of dopamine for 2 weeks and it'll reset it. They claim to have it work miracles on them. Sounds scientific, sounds hardcore, sounds too good to be true, because it is.
I'm not a huge fan of this.
Yeah.
Is it plausible?
Yeah.
Sure. Is it likely to be something that you need to go into a forest for 2 months to achieve? No. Reality speaking, from a behavioral pattern breaking perspective, I think it's more that we're seeing people using habitual patterns, and that they would like to break habitual patterns that they think are negative, as opposed to a necessary dopamine response. Don't get me wrong, the dopamine response helps you build the habitual pattern, but breaking the pattern doesn't necessarily require a dopamine detox.
I see.
Right?
Not only that, it's completely backwards. Here's the thing. Dopamine isn't the evil one. Dopamine is literally the reason you can get out of bed in the morning. It's motivation juice. Without it, you wouldn't even bother eating, exercising, or even watching this video. Saying I'm going to dopamine detox is like saying I'm going to finally stop breathing oxygen, so when I do breathe oxygen again, I'll appreciate it much more. Imagine going to the gym and deciding I'm going to stop eating food for a week, so when I start the gym up again, I'll want to eat more. Or worse, my muscles will grow faster. Sounds ridiculous, right? That's basically what dopamine detoxing is. Now, don't get me wrong, the idea does come from a good place. People are trying to break free from constant stimulation. They want to feel motivated about the simple things. But starving your brain of dopamine is not the way. What works better? Boring but unsexy fundamentals is how it is. Simple sleep. Focus on sleep. If you're doom scrolling to 2 a.m. and then cranking your brain into overdrive with a Red Bull at 8 a.m. in the morning 6 hours later to hopefully be able to sit down and put 3 hours of work in, it's not going to work. Your brain needs deep restorative sleep for function. This includes caffeine, relaxation, now actual relaxation, not numb myself with Netflix until my eyes close. Try hobbies that don't involve glowing blue light screens. Nutrition. Eating garbage makes you feel like garbage. If your entire diet is chips and caffeine, how do you expect to put 3 hours of undisturbed work in? No detox in the world is going to save that focus. Now, these things sound boring compared to a dopamine detox challenge, but they are actually what reset your baseline. Here's what's more practical instead of a detox. Try a dopamine diet. Not elimination, instead regulation. Instead of cutting out dopamine entirely, cut those small hits. The scrolling, the endless notifications, the artificial, high fructose versions of stimulation. Instead, replace them with slow burning, nutritious sources of dopamine. Reading, working on projects, physical exercise, or maybe even real human interaction. Think of it like junk food versus whole food. A donut gives you a quick sugar rush, but makes you feel terrible. A balanced meal will fuel you for hours. And that works the same with dopamine. The internet trains us to snack on donuts all day. Then we wonder why we feel empty and exhausted. So next time you see someone preaching a dopamine detox, just remember it's not actually about starving yourself of dopamine. It's about reteaching your brain what's worth craving. What would be an appropriate action or measure to take to complete that task? What's step one? And what can we continue after step one to employ to make sure that gets done?
Small steps.
Yeah.
And building habits where you engage with the process. Once the habits are in place, you will expand the time that you spend on the task because it's easier.
Okay, it's not as foreign.
It's not as foreign. You also just have gathered more context about the thing that you're doing, which means that new things that you learn as part of doing the task, they fit into the puzzle that you've created, right?
Yeah.
That's a pleasant experience. That context doesn't exist at the start.
Bit of Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah,
right. A little bit.
You think you know what you're doing,
Yep.
you get into it, you realize that you have no idea what you're doing,
Yep.
but you've You've got these pieces that you're starting to put together, and that is a pleasant experience.
So do you really have ADHD? Statistically, probably not. What you do have is a distracted brain living in a world engineered for distraction. You're not broken, you just haven't been trained. Rebuilding focus isn't glamorous. It's not a viral challenge. It's boring, uncomfortable, and repetitive work. But over time, it compounds. And it may not seem like that initially. One page leads to a chapter leads to a book. And suddenly you realize, I can read a book. I can actually focus. I can comprehend, I can understand.